Hey guys, this is Samreed from A1 Australia, IELTS, PTE, and NATI coaching. So a lot of students have problem with various tasks in PTE. One of those tasks that we would be discussing today is reading and writing fill in the blanks. So this task has a lot of weightage. It gives you 22 points in both reading and writing. Yeah. Also, there's a tip for this task that you should not give more than 2.5 minutes to each question so that you don't run out of time. Also, one more thing. In this task, you have to be very careful of the three things that I'm going to tell you right now: vocabulary, grammar, and the tone, which means the vocabulary should be correct, the sentence should be grammatically correct after you fill in the blank, and the tone should be the same. A lot of students have problem in when there are synonyms in the paragraph. So in that, the vocabulary is correct, the grammar is correct, but they have the problem in the tone. So you have to be very careful of the tone or the context of the paragraph. Just read the whole paragraph and get a gist of the paragraph, what it is about, and then you can easily get to know the answer, right? Yeah. So there are basically a lot of synonyms. So just make sure that you choose the correct one, right? So this is an A1 Australia portal that we have, and our students practice on this portal. Right now I have logged into a student's ID. Okay, so we have got a dashboard which gives you the basic knowledge of, which gives you the basic information about your progress. We've got mock tests, we've got section wise tests, we've got question wise tests, and we've got a vocab book that contains collocation list, which is very useful. So right now we're gonna go into the question wise test, and then we're gonna start with reading and writing fill in the blanks, right? Yeah. So let's start with the first one. So keep in mind the three things that I told you: vocabulary, grammar, and the tone. Okay, so let's begin. With their punk hairstyles and bright colors, marmosets and tamarins are among the most attractive primates on earth. These fast moving, lightweight animals live in the rainforests of South America. The small size dash it easy for them. The small size claims, brings, makes, takes. So now all the vocabulary is correct and the grammar is correct if even if we choose any one of these words, right? But now we have to see the tone, the context, what it's saying, if it makes sense or not, right? So now if you put the small size claims it easy for them to dart about the trees, what does it mean? It means nothing, right? It claims meaning that you're claiming something, right? That you're owning something. The small size brings it easy for them. Doesn't make sense, right? The small size makes it easy for them. It's making perfect sense. The small size takes it easy for them. Doesn't make sense. So see, you have to see the tone, right? So we're gonna choose makes. After that, their small size makes it easy for them to dart about the trees, catching insects and small animals such as lizards, frogs, and snails. Marmosets have another unusual food: provenience, origin, source, originability. So for this, we'll try to use each word properly. Marmosets have another usual food: provenience. They use, no, it's not making sense. It's not grammatically correct even, right? Have an unusual food origin. They use their chisel, scissors, and industries. Food origin. Okay, this can be a word, so we're gonna put it aside and we're gonna look for other options. Okay, marmosets have another unusual food source. They use their chisel like incisor teeth. This works as well. Unusual food originality. They use their chisel like incisor teeth. Uh, Originality and provenience are out, right? Origin and source. So now we have to see the context, right? Marmosets have another unusual food origin. They use their chisel like incisor teeth. Marmosets have another unusual food source. They use their chisel like incisor teeth to dig into the tree bark and lap up the gummy sap. So, with the context, you can easily distinguish that the answer is source, unusual food source, right? Yeah. Now, let's go forward. Tree bark, dig into tree bark and lap up the gummy sap that seeps out, leaving telltale oval shaped dash in the dash when they have finished. telltale oval shaped bump, ramp, swell, holes. So if they are digging into the tree bark, they're gonna leave holes because bump is a crest, right? So they're gonna leave holes in the dash when they have finished. In the grasses, branches, trees, root. So here they say they use the chisel-like incisive teeth to dig into the tree bark and lay up the gummy sap and lap up the gummy sap that seeps out, leaving telltale oval-shaped holes in the grasses, branches, trees, roots. So here grass is not going to come because there's no mention of grass, right? There's no mention of roots, right? Because they're not digging underground, right? So now you've got two options: trees and branches. Both of them are grammatically correct and the vocabulary is correct, and they both fit perfectly. But now you have to see the context, right? So in first they said incisor teeth to dig into the tree bark, which means they're not digging into the tree properly; they're digging into the tree bark, right? Tree bark means branches. There you go. In the branches when they have finished. But as vast tracts of rainforest are cleared for plantations and cattle ranches, marmosets and tamarines are in dash of extinction. Endangered, fatal, safe, danger. So as you can easily distinguish, the answer would be danger, are in danger of extinction. Let's submit our answer and see if we are correct, right? There you go. Perfect score. So the three things that you should consider is the vocabulary, the grammar, and the tone, right? Yeah. Also, it's very easier to break something rather than to put something together, right? So try to use the elimination method if you can. Right now, I eliminated when I used the unusual food source stuff, right? So try to eliminate the things if it makes it easier for you, right? So let's do another question. Maybe in the 30s or something. Let's go 32. Right. Let's see what happens. Okay. Cool. So we'll apply the same things in this exercise as well, right? Okay. Learning to write well in college means learning or relearning how to write clearly and plainly. Now that doesn't mean plainness is the only good style or that you should become a dash to spare under unadorned writing. Okay. Become a person to spare unadorned writing. A staff should become a staff to spare unadorned writing. So staff is out, right? Elimination method. Staff is out. You should become a slave to spare unadorned writing, and soldier to spare unadorned writing. Okay. So here staff is out. So to become a person to spare unadorned writing. Okay. So person to spare is, so it says that you should become a dash to spare unadorned writing. Okay. So I think person's out because it's referring to that you should not become this to spare unadorned writing, right? So according to me, I think slave should be correct here. You should be or that you should become a slave to spare unadorned writing. See, it fits perfectly, right? So formality and orateness have their place, and in competent hands, complexity can take us on a dizzying, breathtaking journey. But most students, most of the time, should dash to be sensibly simple to develop a baseline style of short words, active verbs. Okay. But most students, most of the time, should strive, stick, commit, reject. But most students should, most of the time, should strive to be sensibly simple to develop a baseline style of short words. Okay. Should stick to be sensibly simple to develop a baseline style of short words. Okay. Should commit to be sensibly simple. Should reject to be sensibly simple. Okay. So now the vocabulary and the grammar is correct, right? Now we have to see the tone and the context. Cool. So in the first line, they said formality and orateness have their place, and in competent hands, complexity can take us on a dizzying, breathtaking journey. But they countered it. But most students, most of the time, should strive to be sensibly simple to develop a baseline style of short words, active verbs, and relatively simple sentences conveying, confining, defining, concealing. conveying clear actions or identities, confining clear actions or identities, defining clear actions or identities, concealing clear actions or identities. So in this, we would say that sentences, clear actions or identities. So active verbs and relatively simple sentences conveying clear actions or identities fits perfectly. The context is clear, right? So let's just go through because I think conveying gives a very strong vibe that it is correct, right? Sentences confining clear actions or identities. Okay, it can be, but I think conveying is, it fits perfectly. Confining means to hide something, right? Confining means to include something in something bigger. Okay, confining sentences defining clear actions or identities. Now, sentences concealing clear actions or identities. Now, due to the context, I think it's conveying, right? It's faster, it makes arguments easier to follow, it increases the chances a busy reader will bother to pay attention, and it lets you dash more attention on your moments of rhetorical flourish. It lets you span, rise, focus, pin. So, lets you span more attention on your moments of rhetorical flourish, lets you rise more attention on your moments of rhetorical, so rise out, right? Because it's not making any grammatical sense as well, right? Lets you pin more attention on your moments of rhetorical flourish, which I do not advise abandoning altogether. Okay, so span, focus, and pin. Okay. It lets you span. Span means taking, making time. Okay, so you span more attention on your moments. So I don't think it's span, right? So span is out. Span and rise are out. So we have got focus and pin. Bother to pay attention. It lets you pin your more attention on your moments of rhetorical flourish, which I do not advise abandoning altogether. And it lets you focus more attention on your moments of rhetorical flourish, which I do not advise abandoning altogether. So, according to the context, you can easily guess that it's focus, right? Because it's in the before this line, it says it increases the chances a busy reader will bother to pay attention, and it lets you focus more attention on your moments of rhetorical flourish. Let's submit and see our answer. There you go. So it's also correct, right? So moving on, maybe we'll do like two or three more examples. Then maybe it will become more clearer for you that what this task is about and what you need to follow, what you need to keep in mind to make sure that you get full marks or you get like 90% of the marks, right? Yeah. So that's that. So we've got 30s. Let's go with 40s, right? Let's go with 40s. See. Okay. The purpose of this paper is to consider the claim often made that computer simulation exercises provide an excellent source of speaking practice. In so doing, I shall first consider the properties of computer simulations from a theoretical point of view, then describe the experience of dash a particular simulation. Experience of using a particular simulation, of having been used a particular simulation. I don't think it's correct, right? Having been used a particular, nah, it's out. Having been used is eliminated. Of used a particular simulation is not grammatically correct, that's out as well. Describe the experience of being used a particular simulation with a general EFL class, it is also out. So the only uh, proper answer is using due to just the grammatical sense, right? I didn't even go to the tone, it's just grammatically it is correct, using is correct. Okay. Okay, so let's begin with the other line. On the basis of this experience and of some very straightforward pedagog- pedagogical considerations, I'm not sure about that word, right? Pedagogical, pedag- pedagogical considerations, I shall argue that the claim is justified, dash to a very important caveat. Okay. So I shall argue that the claim is justified, dash to a very important caveat, computer simulations. Okay. I shall argue that the claim is justified, expect to a very important caveat, reject to a very important caveat, subject to a very important caveat, inject to a very important caveat. So In basic sense, it is subject, right? Claim is justified subject to a very important caveat, because that's a normal saying that we say in normal life, right? We say in everyday life, subject to this, subject to that, subject to market risk. You might have heard, right, in banking terminology, right? Okay, so computer simulations can form the basis of excellent speaking exercises, provided you do not expect the computer to do all the work. Put in another way, many computer simulations only dash their full potential, only remain, contain, attain, retain. Many simulations, if they are dashed, many simulations only remain their full potential. It's not grammatically correct. It's out. Only contain their full potential as language exercises. Contain, it's not, when you see the context, it's not working out right. Attain their full potential as language exercises if they are dashed into a larger planned teach manual. Retain their full potential. So retain means whatever you have, you're retaining that, right? You're not losing anything. So retain is out, right? So by eliminating all the other options, attain is the right answer. Their full potential as language exercises if they are dashed into a larger planned, separated, included, integrated, and I'll tell you why. So integrated is used for software terminology or some technical terminology, right? So integrated means taking something and making it a part of something very big, right? Separated won't go if they are separated into a larger plant. No, if they're included can be correct. Participated is not correct because participated is like if you participate in something, right? If you take part in something. So we have included and integrated. Like I told you, integrated is used for a more uh, computer-wise terminology, right? So that's why you use integrated. So these are the things that you should see. Let me see if my answer is correct. That's why that's after that I'll tell you if my answers are correct. Then I'll tell you why I chose those answers, right? See, there you go. Yeah. So integrated I chose because I knew that what it meant and in which way it meant. Like yeah, right. In computer terminology, integrated. So that's that. Okay. So we've got 30, we've got 40. We gonna do 50. Let's skip because there are like 250 questions of each question type in our AI portal, right? So we've got a lot of questions to practice on. Okay. So let's choose 62, 63. Let's choose 63. Okay, let's start with this task, right? A herbal is a book of plants describing their appearance, their properties, and how they may be used for preparing ointments and medicines. The medical use of plants is dash on fragments of papyrus and clay tablets. Okay. The medical use of plants is memorized on fragments, is registered, is kept, is recorded. Okay, so you cannot memorize something on a piece of paper, on a piece of, something that you can write on, right? So is registered on fragments of papyrus. Okay, registered means you are recording something and you are putting it in a journal sense, right? You're putting it out there, right? That in today's time we'll say registered means you recorded something and you put it online. So that's why you registered it. You uh, did something official to it, right? Yeah. So according to me, memorized and registered are out. The medical use of plants is kept on fragments. It's not right. It's not grammatically. It's not making any sense, right? It can be grammatically correct. It's kept. Yeah, it is grammatically correct, but it's not making any sense. You have to be very, very, very careful if it makes sense or not, right? So by eliminating everything, recorded is, according to me, is the right answer. On fragments of papyrus and clay tablets from ancient Egypt, Samaria, and China that date back 5,000 years, but document traditions far older still. Over 700 herbal remedies were detailed in the papyrus 𝐓𝐫𝐲, an Egyptian text written in 1500 BC. Around 65 BC, a Greek physician called Dioscorides wrote a herbal that was dashed into Latin and Arabic, that was removed, interpreted, translated, moved. in general sense, that was translated into Latin and Arabic, right? Known as the marital medicine, it became the most influential work on medicinal plants in both Christian and Islamic worlds until the late 17th century. An illustrated manuscript copy of the text made in Constantinople, modern day Istanbul, dash from the 16th century. An illustrated manuscript of the text made in modern day Istanbul, dash from duplicates from the 16th century, leaves from the 16th century, suffers from the 16th century, survives from the 16th century. So it says an illustrated copy, manuscript copy. So many people, if they hear copy, they're gonna immediately be like duplicates, right? But it didn't say that it is a copy, right? You cannot use copy and duplicate together. Okay. An illustrated manuscript copy of the text made in Constantinople survives, because suffers doesn't make any sense, leaves doesn't make any sense, duplicate would make sense, but as you can recall in the previous line, it says until the late 17th century, right? So it says the manuscript copy of the text made in Constantinople in the previous time, modern day Istanbul, which is modern day Istanbul, but at that time it was Constantinople, right? So it says survives. If something is still here from a long time, it's surviving, right? The first printed herbals date from the dawn of European printing in the 1480s. They provided valuable information of apothecaries whose job was to take the pills and potions dashed by physicians whose job was to take the pills and potions pointed by the physicians, not making any sense, prescribed by the physicians, it makes perfect sense, instructed by the physicians. Instruct is when you are instructing someone to do something, right? Do something physically. And potions determined by the physicians. So determined doesn't make any sense, right? So by eliminating, we got prescribed. Eliminating method is very useful. If you know what the context is, eliminating method is the fastest method you can use. Okay, because you just have to see if it fits. If it's not, then you put it aside. If it does fit, just put it on hold and see the other options. You're gonna get a choice in two options. So rather than choosing one out of four, it's easier to choose one out of two, right? So that's that. By physicians. In the next century, landmark herbals were produced in England by William Turner, considered to be the father of British botany, and John Gerard, whose illustrations would dash the floral fabric, wallpaper, and tile designs, whose illustrations would inspire the floral fabric, would simulate the floral fabric, would inspire two times. Okay, okay. So would wake the floral fabric. Okay. So I would have said inspire, but it's two times, so I don't know which option is, the system, which option is correct. So there's like 260 questions, so there can be a little bit, there's a margin of error, right? So whose illustrations would inspire the floral fabric, which according to me is correct, right? Because simulate is when you do something and it leads to something else, so it simulates, right? And wake the floral fabric, we are addressing a non-living thing, we're using art, we are addressing art, right? So that's why it's going to be inspire. Let's see, we got it correct, right? Recorded, translated, survives, prescribed, inspire. So that's that. Let's see if we have time for one more. Let's go till the very end, right? Let's go to 258. Let's see. This goes just at 3. It's very easy. So recently, due to concerns over pollution and the possibility that some sources of fuel might eventually run out or become dashed to obtain or become unaffordable, unilateral, unspecific, uneconomic, unaffordable to obtain, might eventually run out, fuel might eventually run out or become unilateral. Unilateral is out, right? Unspecific, uneconomic. So I'm confused between unaffordable and uneconomic. Let me see the whole context, right? Recently, due to the concerns of pollution and the possibility that some sources of fuel might eventually run out or become uneconomic. Easy. Uneconomic because it's talking about there's no uh, mention of money, right? There's no mention of money. Uneconomic to obtain. There has been much greater support for renewable sources of power, such as wind or solar energy. Renewable energy sources consume 25% of the electricity we use, consist 25% of the electricity we use, provide 25% of the electricity we use, construct 25% of the electricity we use. So, in general sense, everyone choose provide, right? Because consume, what is the use if renewable energy sources consume 25% of the electricity we use, right? So they are decreasing our chances, so they are decreasing the amount of electricity that we can use, so it's not advantageous for us, so consume is out of the question, right? So consist 25% of the electricity we use, it can be consist. Okay. So we're gonna keep it on hold. Construct 25% of the electricity we use, which construct means making something, right? Building something. So provide. Unlike dash fuels, they tend not to produce any waste or significantly add to global warming by producing gases. Unlike fossil fuels, easy. Fossil fuels, because air pollution, everybody knows what air pollution is. So what air pollution is caused by fossil fuels, right? So let's see if our answers are correct. There you go. You got a perfect score. So I kept the three things in mind: vocabulary, grammar, and the third thing was the tone. Tone is very important. The tone and the context. It gives you a right answer most of the time. So you have to read the whole thing. You have to get a gist or an idea what the paragraph is about, and then you can choose your answer. Try to eliminate options so that, because as I said earlier, it's easier to choose one out of two rather than one out of four, right? So try to eliminate the options. It is very easy method. I explained everything as I was going with the question. Still, I did some questions in ideal time, right? That some students would take without even explaining or something, right? So that's why I chose elimination method. Elimination method is very fast and would help you save a lot of time, right? So more tips and techniques like this. Follow us, contact us if you want to join our classes. It will be very beneficial for you, and we offer unlimited classes for very very low rates, and we are sure that if you take some classes with us, you'll see an improvement. From A1 Australia Coaching, I'm Samreed, and I'll see you soon.